Same. More of these polluting road projects. This is a road to nowhere. This is a road that will dump traffic into Fremantle. I've had a look at what's proposed here. It's going to impact severely on local amenity. I've already said the huge damage that it will do to the local environment, but it doesn't actually solve what is a huge long-term problem when there are options. There are much more sensible options that should be looked at as an alternative to this road to nowhere. What we should see from the Prime Minister is what the Greens are proposing. That's more innovation, real innovation, bringing us into the 21st century economy with fast and frequent public transport and rail freight. And we know there's an option to do that in this local community. I just say to the Prime Minister, we need to see innovation, and innovation doesn't mean spruiking your fossil fuel agenda. It doesn't mean ploughing more money into polluting road projects. And it doesn't mean carrying on with the Tony Abbott agenda. We need a change in direction from this government, and sadly, Prime Minister, you have let the nation down. Yeah. Thank you. I'm more happy to take some questions if you like.
What do you think about the fact that the federal government's given this funding to something that hasn't been signed off by the EPA yet?
Well, that's also remarkable, and the idea that you would fund one part of the project when the entire thing is reliant on getting approvals through the state government, which are currently before the courts. I think that's remarkable. I think it's irresponsible. I think what it does is it makes a mockery of the state's approval processes. He's basically saying, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, we know you're going to let this get over the line. We know you'll fight whatever obstacle is put in front of it. He's saying that to his mates in the state government, and we're going to put the money in to another part of the project. I think it's irresponsible that you would sign off on taxpayer dollars to fund a project that still hasn't got the appropriate approvals from the state government. Look, this is a Prime Minister who has, I think at the time he led the Republican debate here in Australia, the debate for Australia to become a republic, said that John Howard broke the nation's heart. Well, this Prime Minister is breaking the nation's heart. He's breaking the nation's heart because we had a government under Tony Abbott that was taking us backwards, that was dragging us somewhere towards the 1950s. And here we thought we'd see some innovation, we'd see somebody who really would back up his rhetoric around that innovation, that 21st century economy notion. And instead he's following the Tony Abbott agenda, riding roughshod over the wishes of the local community, leaving some of their amenity, and not just their amenity, but something that belongs to all of us, this precious biodiversity, who's effectively saying, no, we are going to put money into this polluting road project. We don't care what the community thinks. And I mean, this is remarkable to see so many people come here at short notice to come and say to the Prime Minister, you need to start listening. We expected more from you, and it's about time you took us in a different direction to the direction the Tony Abbott was taking this nation in.
While he is in town, do you think it'd be nice for him to come down and see this sort of area as well?
Look, I expect that every single person here would extend a warm invitation to the Prime Minister to come and have a look at what risks being lost if this project goes ahead. I mean, as I said, the project itself just simply doesn't stack up on all sorts of grounds. I don't understand how you can fund one part of a project knowing that another part hasn't had the necessary approvals, and knowing that the critical link in Fremantle is simply just going to become a traffic sewer. what we're going to see is Fremantle turn into a traffic sewer if this continues. I suspect that every single person here would say to the Prime Minister, come and talk to us. We live here, we use this environment, it's part of why we've moved to this area, it's part of why we live here. Come and see what we enjoy, and then come and look at what you're proposing to do to Fremantle through this road that really will do nothing to solve what is a long-term challenge for the state of Western Australia. And we know there are alternative options. We know this option before us will patch up a problem for a few years, create a whole set of new issues, and we'll still have to work out what we're going to do with the growing freight issue that the Port of Fremantle is only in a few years' time going to struggle to deal with, when there are alternative options. So yes, on behalf of every single person here in the community, Prime Minister, come and take a look, see at what you risk damaging, and see what the community here thinks about your proposal.
Come on down, Prime Minister.
Any other questions?
I just thought Minister Nalder did say that he believes the impact of 120 to the 140 homes that now will be tunnelled underneath will be little to no impact. How do you feel about that? Do you agree?
Well, you ask any Australian about whether they'd like to see a tunnel dug under their house, and we've seen some of the problems in New South Wales with some of those very expensive tunnelling projects that have caused all sorts of problems to people in those local communities. This is I suspect, a bit of thinking on the run from the Prime Minister. Again. I mean, this project seems to be changing minute by minute. The latest thought bubble is that we're going to have this tunnel that somehow is going to reduce the impact on the local community. But I can tell you, having spoken to a number of people here, no one wants to see this tunnel built beneath their homes.
It's extraordinary that the Prime Minister, who likes to talk up his credentials in the innovation space, but also his business credentials, can approve money for a project that doesn't include the final leg, that is the final leg getting over the river and into North Fremantle. So we do not know the final cost of the Perth Freight Link, and that whole project has not been compared to other alternatives like the Outer Harbour. So there has been no independent analysis of the total cost of this project compared to the Outer Harbour, for instance. That in itself is extraordinary. We also know that what is happening is that by spending so much on a road going into the Fremantle port, that what the government is really doing is improving the capacity of the port for private sale. So there will be a huge number of containers in and out of Fremantle port, up to 2 million containers per year, about 3 times what the current number going in and out of Fremantle port is. What that will do is not only have an impact for people south of the river, but it'll have a huge impact for people along Leach Highway and also north of the river, as that huge amount of freight spills out throughout the Perth suburbs. The government has said, Dean Nalder has said, that this tunnel option will be an improvement for people living in around the area moving into the port. He hasn't talked about what happens to placard loads, that is dangerous goods, that need to travel into the port, and there are many of those trucks containing dangerous goods. When the residents for Palmyra asked about placard loads or dangerous goods, the Minister Dean Nalder said that he would change the regulations to allow placard loads to go through the tunnels. So when Dean Nalder says that this tunnel will not have an impact on people living above it, perhaps he can explain what will happen to those trucks carrying dangerous goods, and also what will happen to those diesel fumes. So whether there will be stacks along the route that will push the fumes up into the suburb, or whether the fumes will be pushed out at the beginning of the tunnel. At the moment there is an aged care facility that sits at the beginning of the tunnel or at the end of the tunnel. So it will definitely, those fumes will either way have a huge impact on the residential community. Any way that you look at this project, whether it's at the beginning of this project here at these beautiful wetlands, whether it is through the freight link when you're tunnelling under houses and how those houses will be impacted in their foundations, or through dangerous goods or through diesel fumes, or when you get to the huge car park or the extra money that will need to be spent going into Fremantle Port, this project does not stack up. If the government was so confident about this project, it would take it to the election. It would take it to the next federal election, and it would take it to the next state election. If they're that confident about this project, that's what they would do. It's interesting that Dean Nalder, who would have normally stood for the state seat of Bicton, has tried to move and has been successful in moving to the next state seat, that is the seat of Bateman, and that just happened on Saturday. His ability to move out of Bicton and stand for the next state seat of Bateman just happened on Saturday. Just a few days later, he's announcing this project. So it's a huge slap in the face for the people of Bicton, for the people of East Fremantle, and any of the people that are impacted by the Perth Freight Link. The whole project should be abandoned. People are rightly to be angry at governments taking on these projects, spending huge amounts of taxpayers' money, whether it's state money or federal money, on a project that is so flawed, that is only looking at such short-term interests. What needs to happen is that there is a step back and a proper analysis done of the full cost of this project, including getting to the port, with other alternatives like the Outer Harbour. It does not pass the common sense test, and this project should be abandoned.
Hi everyone, I'm Melissa Park, the federal member for Fremantle, and I just want to add my words to Simone. State Labor is absolutely opposed to the Perth Freight Link, as is federal Labor, absolutely opposed to the Perth Freight Link. We do need federal government investment in a long-term freight solution, and that requires the development of the Outer Harbour. Why would you spend $1.9 billion of taxpayers' money on a truck, freeway and tunnel to a port that will reach capacity within the next decade or so, and which doesn't even get beyond the Stirling Bridge, which means, as Simone said, you're going to have a massive further amount of taxpayers' money needing to be spent. This is a complete waste of money, taxpayers' money, and it is something that will energise the community in this state for the coming federal election and for the coming state election. So Malcolm Turnbull should come down here and see what is at risk. He should come here and face the community and say why he thinks this is a good idea. I don't think he will. I don't think he will because, frankly, he can't justify it. And he won't want to be seen next to this project. He just likes to give the money away and then let West Australia deal with it. Well, this state is not going to stand up for it. This community is not going to stand up for it.
Valley have.
And
it's a disgraceful act on behalf of the government that's been elected to represent you. The government, the Liberal government in the state and federally, should be taking this project to the next election, and it should be up to the people of Western Australia to decide where their tax dollars go. This is a road to nowhere. It's going to deliver extra traffic to East Fremantle on Marmion Street, and we all know, those that live in the electorate, how difficult it is to get across the existing bridge at this stage. As has been said, there's bipartisan support for the Outer Harbour. It's not a matter of if that's required, it's a matter of when. So these funds should be redirected into a project that will benefit all Western Australians and not just those who buy the Port of Fremantle, which currently returns $65 million to the community that benefits everyone. Private assets like the Fremantle Port should belong to the people that have bought and paid for them, and we shouldn't be asked to pay for those assets again.
I've been a resident for a very long time in the suburb of Palmyra. I love my community. I don't want to see it divided. This morning I heard that some of my great friends' homes will be saved because of this tunnel option. But that's not good enough. So now we shift from, the impact to one lot of residents to a different lot of residents, and it's not right. It's certainly not fair, and it should not be happening. I stood at the car park at Port Beach this morning, and I watched the trucks rumble around heading towards the port. A tunnel won't change that. We need to stop this project and get on with building an Outer Harbour.
Yes. Yeah.
For us, this is a very frustrating day because whilst there is an extra 200+ million for a tunnel, it just comes out at the edge of the city of Fremantle to what's already the worst congested part of this network. A part of this network that, in fact, there is no solution for and there is no plan for. And in terms of the investment in the freight network, is actually one that won't help the freight network and will only have a series of negative impacts. This government needs to step back and actually look properly at the range of alternatives when you're going to spend more than $2 billion to make this project work, and actually start seriously looking at options like the outer harbour. The danger for Fremantle of this project is that we'll ultimately just create a road through Fremantle that will block any access to Fremantle from the north. It'll be a freeway that will cut Fremantle off and will ultimately undermine Fremantle's economy going forward. Not only is this a waste of money, not only is it bad for beelia wetlands, but it's going to be absolutely potentially terrible for Fremantle as well. So on that basis, we will continue to oppose it as strongly as we can.
Excellent.
The proposal that the Prime Minister is funding is one that fails to save beelia wetlands and actually fails to get the freight into the port. You can see at less than a day's notice this is the level of community opposition to this kind of proposal. The Greens will continue to stand with the community to call for much better solutions that really drive the infrastructure that we need in this area. Thank you for coming today.
Everyone, you had such short notice to get out here today, but we've had a little relax since the Supreme Court action a Supreme Court win. But I know you're all just watching this all the time, and we all keep being there for you as Rethink the Link, as Save Beelia Wetlands, as the 35 organisations that are a part of our alliance. We had Doctors Reform Society stopped me in the street the other day and said, we want to be part of the alliance as well. So people keep coming on board. We're an enormous force, and I thank every single one of you for always being here, for standing up for our communities. So I thank you to all of you.
Try it. Strawberry, plum, blackberry jam. That's great. Thank you. That's
Can you
great.
hold it up for the camera?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
That's great.